Hey everybody, my name is Iris Sowlat and I'm directing Romeo and Juliet with Accidental Shakespeare Company. So I'm going to answer the question of why Zoom theater and what we are doing with Romeo and Juliet to specifically bring it to Zoom. So, wow, it has just been a year, you guys. It has been a little over a year since the pandemic started in March. For any theater folks watching this, I'm sure you can relate to just the utter sense of displacement that occurred when the pandemic started. Since I know I was looking forward to like 2020 being my best year. When the pandemic started, I was in rehearsals for Black Night, which was a full production of a show that I loved. I was doing the director's flight at Midsummer Flight, and I had this Romeo and Juliet, my dream show, on the horizon for that summer. And then when the pandemic started, everything was canceled or postponed. And I just felt this huge sense of just utter displacement because suddenly I had no deadlines, no shows, nothing to work on, no day job as well. And I was just like, what am I doing if I can't do this? And then a lot of folks ended up finding that Zoom is a great medium to do theater on. Zoom is great because Zoom is accessible if you're an actor or an audience member. You just need the internet and you don't need to travel. And if you're not the host, it doesn't cost a thing. And so a lot of people are taking to Zoom and doing these productions. And I think it started with a lot of like talking heads readings or like variety shows of solo work, but then companies just started realizing you can do so much more with Zoom. And they started doing that too, just playing with like blocking and everything, and how like you can still do a full production with full blocking and full tech over Zoom. And so then I realized like we don't really know when this pandemic will end. I got into grad school for this coming fall, and I'm like, okay, I'll be away from Chicago now it'll be like in 5 months. And so a few months ago, Act Shakes and we just realized, let's do this virtually, and let's do it really well virtually, because that is the world that we're living in. And it would be amazing to really create something that we love, that we can be proud of, instead of just kind of wondering, oh, when are we going to do it live? And so people have talked about like, oh, is Zoom theater real theater? Or is it like closer to film than theater? What even is it? And to me personally, I'm just like, does it matter if it's real theater? Like, seriously, does that matter? Yeah, it is actually closer to film than theater. I don't really have any filmmaking skills. For this Romeo and Juliet, we did bring in a truly amazing film editor who has been putting everything together. But in doing it over Zoom, we found so many ways to bring the show to life, and to bring it to life as a period piece of the 2020 pandemic. So just to give you a taste of what this production is, we filmed most of it over Zoom with like additional self-tapes or other bits of footage taken elsewhere. And we are setting it here during the pandemic of 2020 in contemporary Chicago. It is still Shakespeare's language. They still use the word Verona to represent, the town. They are still in the town of Verona, but it is still set in Chicago during the 2020 pandemic. You see characters intentionally logging onto Zoom or taking out their phone to text someone while they're on another Zoom call, and characters like taking off masks when they get in the room, or putting on their masks if they're going to go out and do something. And so for us, we just realized like, let's just call it what it is and make this a period piece of this moment now, because we're living in just a really interesting historical moment. And it would just be a disservice to do the Romeo and Juliet any other way if we're doing it right now. So that's what we're doing. I know in our last video, Anjali talked about the dramaturgy of why the plague is also relevant to Romeo and Juliet. If you didn't see that video, basically Shakespeare wrote Romeo and Juliet while there was a massive plague in England, and that plague did affect everyone. And in the text, there is one reference to the plague. Friar John basically could not get the letter from Friar Lawrence to Romeo and Mantua because he was barred from entering Mantua due to the plague. And this letter was supposed to tell Romeo, hey, just kidding, Juliet is not actually dead. She is fake dead, and we're going to try to smuggle her out of here so you and her can be together outside of Verona. Romeo never got that letter, so spoiler alert, he returns to Verona, sees Juliet dead in the crypt, kills himself, and then Juliet kills herself when she sees Romeo's dead body. I hope that didn't spoil that for anybody. But like that one reference to the plague really was at the moment where it's like, if Romeo had gotten that letter, everything would have been fine and this would have been a whole different play. And so the plague really did affect the trajectory of these two people's lives. And Shakespeare kind of only needed to mention it once because it was just in so many people's memories. It's like, you know, now I could go to the Disney store on Michigan Avenue and like they're selling like Disney princess masks for toddlers, and I want a grown-up size Disney princess mask, but but it's like they don't even need to say, oh, these are for the COVID pandemic. It's like, you know, like of course, you know, among like, you know, all of the DVDs and toys and dress ups, like, oh, of course you might get your kid a little mask because it's like, you know, it's part of the culture now, it's part of the situation. So yeah, we made a Romeo and Juliet in which the concept of the characters intentionally logging onto Zoom or communicating via social media became part of the plot, which you will see in the production of the show itself. And then when characters break quarantine, it's even more significant. Like we did have actors going to Winamac Park to socially distantly film bits of them doing the fight scenes. And this was near the end of the process when most folks were vaccinated. And we do have scenes where the second balcony scene after Romeo visits Juliet in person and when he's leaving before his banishment to Mantua, we filmed that, the actors filmed that at their separate homes, but the camera angles were such that it was meant to look as though they had visited each other in real life, because the fact that like Romeo broke quarantine to see her, that then carries just so much additional weight if like all of their conversations before that had been virtual. So yeah, so I think that this Zoom Romeo and Juliet will really capture what it's like to be separated from the one you love, in not just in the world of the play with these warring families, but in like the real life world of, we have this huge added stressor, this huge national trauma of this pandemic, and that is something in everybody's life, and this is the lens through which we can see the world's greatest love story. So please see Romeo and Juliet on YouTube, running through May and June of this year. It'll be released in 5 separate episodes. It is the world's greatest love story for the world's greatest year. And please follow Accidental Shakespeare Company on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you very much and have a great rest of your day.